everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Jedi Way here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I am John Rocha, known as Rocha Fed around these parts. Really excited to be reunited with these two wonderful people to talk about the first 3 episodes of Andor Season 2. This is a spoiler review of all 3 episodes. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. But joining me for this ride here on this stolen X-Wing fighter is the OG co-host of this show, who also co-hosts the Force Toes Pod. That is the great Laura Kelly. They're coming to us live from the Mon Mothma estate there on Chandrilla. Laura, how are you?
New background image. Who dis? I'm good. Life is good. You season 5 dropped today on Netflix, Life is really exciting with that. Also, High Republic fans, Charles Soule shared the prologue of Trials of the Jedi today on YouTube. So that's really exciting. He read it. He sat and read it himself. And that was silly and fun, but it was a nice little taste of what's to come in the High Republic. So yeah, I'm feeling good.
And of course, the third member of our trio here is the great Kevin Smets, the Smasher himself. How are you, Kevin?
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Big casting news also in Sunrise on the Reaping, the upcoming Haymitch Abernathy Hunger Games prequel. We got the girl from Back to the Future, the girl from Ghostbusters playing Maisie. Who's excited for that?
McKenna Grace.
McKenna Grace. Yes. That novel's fucking sorry. I'm not like
already.
It's a great already. Hunger Games, whatever. But that if they pull it off, that might be the best of all the movies.
Why don't you do
the new book was fantastic and dark as shit. Crazy, but yeah.
Why don't you do KOTOR for the books? Why don't you do a KOTOR version like some character in the book? Yeah.
I was thinking we should pivot in between Andor seasons and then call this like the Panem way, and it would be we would transition into Hunger Games talk. You know what I mean? Because
yeah. Totally. Well,
I'm a big YA guy, as you guys can tell. Big YA. Give me a Twilight. Give me a yeah. You know, Maze Runner was good though. When they forced us to watch these new movies for the Inner Geekdom, and then someone bitched about it, and then they took it all off at the last minute. But the Maze Runner movies were good, anyways.
Yeah,
they were.
All right, there you go. Thought maybe we're a Divergent fan, but I understand. All right,
they stopped. It was like not this like you want to do a direct to TV, and Shailene Woodley or whatever was like, "Fuck no, get the fuck out of here."
It's like, yeah,
sorry, fired up, guys. Anyways, on to Star Wars.
Yeah, on to Star Wars, on to Andor Season 2 before we get an R rating on the show here. The first 3 episodes dropped a couple of days ago as we're recording this. 1 year later is the name of the first episode. Sagrona Tima is the second episode, and Harvest is the third episode. And all 3 of these episodes dove into the world of Andor yet again here with 4 separate storylines, following Mon Mothma, as we mentioned on Chandrilla there, with the marriage of her daughter Leida and what all that means, with her friend Tay visiting her, and Luthen and Klaya there as well. Orson Krennic here talking about Gorman and what they're going to do with Gorman, with Dedra there as well. And we see Dedra and Cyril in one of the most interesting couple combinations in Star Wars ever. We get Cassian, our titular character, stealing a TIE fighter, getting involved with a mini civil war between people in the woods on Yavin 4, and then ending up on Mina-Rau, saving Bix and Wilmon from the Empire, who is there, but unfortunately unable to save Brasso from his death. But also, we experienced the first ever sexual assault here in the world of Star Wars, with what Bix endures in her storyline there on Mina-Rau. So very powerful stuff overall. Laura Kelly, what are your thoughts before we dive into the specific storylines here a little more deeply overall on these first 3 episodes of Andor Season 2?
You know, honestly, for the most part, I was pretty pleased with these first 3 episodes. I was, for the most part, entertained. There's sort of, we'll get into it, but there's, one storyline where I'm just like, I don't care about this, and I wish we'd stop cutting back here. But for the rest of it, overall, I really was like pretty pleased with it. Much more pleased with these first 3 episodes than I was with season 1. These were we jumped right into the action in these episodes, and that's the big difference. Where we don't have to spend as much time doing all the world building that we did with season 1 of this show.
Good point. Yeah.
So I was overall a lot happier with it. I definitely have some nits here and there, and a lot of questions about timing. I mean, these episodes are so much longer than most of the Star Wars live action series that we've gotten, and I can see very clearly where we could have cut some things. So kind of a mystery to me as to why that didn't happen, where we're getting 34-minute episodes of, oh God, well, can't wait to hear what Kevin thinks about this. We're getting 34-minute episodes of like The Mandalorian, but we get an hour-long episode of Cassian. Like, it just... Yeah, I don't know. So that therein lies part of my frustration with this series in general. But sticking with the specific topic of season 2, so far happy with it for the most part. Yeah. Very curious to hear though where Kevin landed on this. I mean, are you surprised by my opinion, Kevin? Because we talked about this. You were like, "What's Laura gonna think?"
The first 12 minutes are like immaculate. Like I was going into this thinking like, all right, they obviously set it up into 3-episode bunches. So like I'm pretending like for the next 4 weeks, we get a Star Wars movie. You know what I mean? And I need to make one because and the opening felt like it. The opening felt like if this was Rogue One, let's say it was the Rogue One was the 3rd movie of a treat, whatever. If season 1 was a movie and now you have season 2, you open with the fantastic sequence with that ship, which was just fantastic. And I was watching it with my daughter, and she turned to look at me at one point and was like, "Daddy, he doesn't know how to fly that spaceship," which was basically fantastic. But so I love that. And overall, as the 3 episodes, I like the first episode. And the third, it's funny. I was at Trader Joe's and I heard some people talking about Andor, and the girl was saying, "Oh, I'm a big Andor fan." And I mentioned, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I watched the first 3 episodes." What do you think? She's like, "The first season was really slow for me, though." And I just said, I was like, "It starts good. It slows down, though. It does slow down." And then it picks up near the end of the first. I'm considering it a movie, but it's like, for me, there's a lot. And as an editor, cutting back and forth, we call them intercuts sometimes. You want there to be some motivations between the intercuts. And the only negative to this, and by the way, I'm loving the story so far. One of my favorite all-time quotes now is from another Luthen line where she's like, "I'm not sure what you're saying," and he's like, "How nice for you." Oh, it's like it's like out of the god, like that's like peak dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Or the other line too that I liked was next time catch them first, then make them famous. That made me laugh. But so there's but the intercuts just kind of made sometimes we're just intercutting. Let's go back to the wedding and watch Mon Mothma walk down the hallway, take another shot, and then you're back. Like sometimes there's a purpose for cutting, I get it, but some of them near the end felt so unmotivated. And I get they were trying to go intercut, and then the faster she's dancing, the more she's partying, and the horrific things that's about to happen to her friend at the end. Like I get it, but like I just thought and that's why I made a joke when I saw your background. I'm like, oh great, more wedding, because all of a sudden, for some reason for me, I was invested in the Cassian part. Minus those goofballs that playing fucking outer space, paper, rock, scissors, which was interesting. But I love the reveal that was Yavin. But I was really interested in that. But there's just some stuff, and we'll get into it. That I was like, oh, why are we cutting to this right now? It's just kind of bizarre. And the wedding was great. It turned into I like the Tudors more than anyone. The Tudors is a great show on Showtime. The show all of a sudden becomes the Tudors. But I didn't need to see the entire process of them walking around like Laura was saying. There's parts where you can cut, and it's just nitpicking in me, but I was like, God, get back to Andor so we can get away from these goofballs already. So
this is so funny because I'm on the opposite end of it. I'm like, you could have cut all that and just given me a Chandrillin wedding, and I would have been thrilled. I actually loved it, which is why I picked this.
Well, you could probably have one now because we know exactly what to say when the door opens and who needs to walk around. It was too long. And by the way, my name is Shannon McClung. Did you guys know that?
Oh God, I didn't. Sorry, guys, I hit the wrong. Sorry about that. Sorry. You guys got to. Sorry. We're using a different frame. All right. Well, I'll have to edit that part out. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Sorry, Kevin. Yes.
Anyways, well, I'm getting too much into specifics. Overall, the 3-episode arc, I watched the first 2, and then I had to break, and then I watched the second one or the third one, the the next night, and Frank had told me, "Wow, you have a lot of self-discipline." For me, though, when I said that, I was like, "The plan is to watch 2 and watch the third one tomorrow." And he said, "You have a lot of self-discipline." I thought he was like setting me up for there was some huge like, catastrophic like cliffhanger, and it really doesn't. That big a cliffhanger. So like it was easy to like wait for the third one. And also Brasso, I fucking love that guy. Yeah. And he looks like doesn't he look like he could be in a live action Disney movie as like I don't know, one of the animated Disney characters that are brought to life. Seems like he would be in like Beauty and the Beast or like Pinocchio or something.
What's the John Goodman character on Emperor's New Groove? He'd be fantastic in that.
Yeah.
Oh, Pacha.
Yeah, Pacha. He'd be a great Pacha. Yeah.
Yeah. So nothing but love for him. And those scenes were really fucking fantastic. So I'm cussing a lot. I'm gonna stop. But those scenes were really fantastic in the third. I like how it opened, and I liked how it closed overall. So yeah.
Okay.
And
I mean, I saw all 12 episodes in one day, which was a hell of an experience, to be honest with you. Yeah, I spent because it was going to be over at 6 p.m. So I woke up at 7 and I got ready by 8, and I was like, okay. And I powered through all 12, and I couldn't stop watching the show. I loved the first 3 episodes. I do understand why people have an issue with the groups of lunkheads that Andor is in the middle of, but I also think I understand he's making a commentary, Tony Gilroy is, throughout this entire season of what a situation is like when a fascist dictatorship takes over these planets, takes over the people, and how much of a mess a rebellion can be before you find some leadership, before you find some organization, and before you find the reasons for these people to step into the spots. And I saw some people complaining like, why I want badass Mon Mothma. It's like, she has to be built to be there. Just calm down. She will get there. Relax. It's coming. And the same thing with Andor is like, I would love that we opened this way with Andor. I love that he's having this conversation with, I think Naya was her name. And he's just telling her how, like, you won't be able to look at yourself in the mirror if you don't do this. And like, he is so not the Andor who is unconfident and aggressive and emotional from last season. He is much more calm. He's much more understanding. He speaks the right words. And when he lands, and of course, as you said, Kevin, the opening 12 months is great. But when he lands on the planet, the conversation, he is knowing who to say what to in order to get them to help him get to that point where he can escape on the planet. I'm with Laura. I like the Chandrillan wedding because we need to see where Mon Mothma comes from, and we need to see what the rebellion does to even people in this situation. Rich people who are just dancing around like nothing is wrong. Meanwhile, the universe is falling apart. They're just going to do this thing that they do, and eventually it will affect them. Luthen and Klaya, it was so great to see them being part of the first 3 episodes as well. And then we get to Mina-Rau. The big stuff was just devastatingly honest and unsettling and harrowing. And I thought, that was amazing to put that in Star Wars, not because I want to see that in Star Wars, but because it's not something you usually would see in a show like this. And it proved to me that Tony Gilroy is pulling no punches in his commentary on what is going on, not only not only you could argue in our country, but in our world. And I really appreciated that by the approach that he was taking here. And I mean, Dedra and Cyril, it's a very interesting relationship on so many levels, and I kind of love that. But
that scene too, like at first there's just a lot of intercutting that felt unmotivated for me.
I can't speak to that because I'm not an editor, so I imagine that's something that you saw very clearly.
I'm not saying I'm some genius that like Tony Gilroy. There was for each thing there was just one too many. Like, just stay. You could have stayed and had one less thing. And that mom scene too, which we'll get to, the speech by Dedra, like to the mom. It's like, I think every wife wants to tell their mother-in-law something to that effect. It's pretty cool.
For sure.
I'm not speaking from personal experience. I'm just saying. Like,
no, we know you love your mother-in-law.
So, can I just say, as the person with like probably the slowest attention span or the smallest attention span in the room, I actually did not even really notice the cutting that much until the very end. Like it started to feel a little bit jerky there towards the end of episode 3. For the most part though, like I think that was really keeping me kind of engaged. So they may have just been like aiming for a certain demographic of people that TikTok are used to short form entertainment. That was that may have been deliberate in that respect, at least in some maybe some respect.
Well, let's combine the Ferrix people all in one here. Let's talk about the Cassian Andor situation. We mentioned the opening here with him stealing the TIE fighter. We see him having trouble working this thing, which I think is an interesting moment of vulnerability from Andor. But then he eventually does escape, ends up on this planet, and these two, and which is Yavin 4, which we find out later, these two groups battling over who should be in charge, and the infantile nature in which they're going to settle it is a game of rock, paper, scissors, essentially, and that allows Andor to escape. Meanwhile, on Mina-Rau, we have Brasso and Bix and Wilmon there. Brasso and Wilmon have found Lady Company there on the planets, but Bix is clearly just kind of recovering from the torture, the PTSD of the torture. She sees Dr. Gorst there in her nightmares, and as if she hasn't endured enough, we see a Imperial officer, after they shut down the planet, all communications planet, go do a census, basically intimate that he has an interest in her that's going to cross some lines. And then later in a later scene, he actually does try to sexually assault her. She fights him off. He ends up dying, hitting his head on that thing out there. We hear the word rape, which is the first time it's uttered in Star Wars live action. And then eventually Andor shows up, not before, sadly, Brasso is killed after he's been captured, trying to take off on his speeder bike, and he does save Bix and Wilmon from the planet on the TIE fighter and takes off. So, Kevin, I go to you first. What are your thoughts on this stuff on the Andor and the gang, and then what we got here on Mina-Rau with Bix, Brasso, and Wilmon?
I was hoping Mina-Rau was going to be Dantooine because it looks just like it from KOTOR. KOTOR reference. Yeah. Shout out to that. And it wasn't. And we have, but the galaxy's a big place, and so I really loved those scenes. I was super invested, and I think it's just a byproduct of sometimes you if you're watching something even like Breaking Bad, or there might be a subplot. You're like, I kind of that's where you start to look at your phone a little bit until you get back to the main characters. And for me, that that was going on with the wedding. Although Mon Mothma is a big focus for me, but yeah, with the kids, I like the idea that when he was on Yavin 4, I like the reveal of that and how he was like, hey, it's not going to rain forever. He was trying to it was showing that Cassian, God bless him, man, if he would have survived Scarif, he probably would have been a general that would have been fantastic for the rebellion. They're showing his leadership skills, and they're showing that big divide. And then as far as Bix goes, to see her, and I know there's a lot of discourse about not wanting to see sexual assault or rape in Star Wars. You go to watch Star Wars to get away from that. And this is heavier storytelling though. For me, being a cancer survivor, a lot of people complained when Thor: Love and Thunder came out because it's triggering for people with cancer or who've had cancer or who lost someone to cancer, because there's chemotherapy in scenes with chemotherapy, and people were fighting for they need to have a place card up front. And I think Disney Plus added one, or maybe they were talking about it, where it warns you hey, this might be triggering. I don't know if Disney Plus did that at the top of Andor to maybe give someone, because if someone has been raped or been in that certain situation, I can see why it would be triggering for them. And it's I'm trying to watch Star Wars, laser swords and space battles and stuff like that. So I also in the discourse where they're talking about how Vader wouldn't condone rape and all that for the Empire, and people were just well, Vader kills children and stuff like that. My only thing is I feel like the Empire would turn their heads to it, but I think the Empire wouldn't want they wouldn't condone it insofar as everything when Vader's killing people or they're murdering people, it's to further the agenda of the Empire and spread the Imperial goal, right? To the Imperial goal of order and stuff like that. And some guy, peeling off to go rape a poor girl that's not serving the Empire's purpose. So maybe they would be hey, there's not a rape policy. Probably Vader might have been pissed. And look, Vader choked a guy for losing the Millennium Falcon. If that guy came back and he lived, he probably would have been choked out and been dude, keep your lightsaber in your pants. So there's a lot of discord back and forth about whether they should show it or not. I am of the opinion that it was good storytelling, and it's really hard to watch, but that's the Empire, and they were creating quite a villain in that. And the 3 episodes really go to show what Cassian was saying in the beginning. Cassian basically presents the hypothesis for the episode, which is they can't be allowed to do this anymore. You have to fight, right? Like, and I think Brasso might have said it too. It's like they must be stopped, like at all stops, and you see that there with that.
Yeah. What do you think, Laura, of this of these two storylines here and how they intersected at the end there with Cassian saving Bix and Wilmon off Mina-Rau?
Well, I'll start with the Ferrix crew. The Wilmon character, I just don't have, I have no investment in this character. I don't remember a ton about what happened with this character in season 1, so I kind of just didn't care with season 2. Brasso, I'd kind of forgotten all the stuff that had happened with him in season 1. I rewatched the last 2 episodes of season 1 before this, and I watched that 10 to 15 minute, whatever it was, recap that Disney Plus posted of season 1, which I thought was incredibly helpful and very thorough. So Brasso, I was like, oh yeah, he did kind of play like a big role in like that big final rebellion in the finale. So a little bit more with him. Bix, I like honestly forgot that she had been tortured last season. Like I was watching these season 2 episodes being like, why aren't they doing anything with this actress? Like you've got, like, what are we doing here? Good Lord. Until we got to the assault at the end, which was brutal to watch. And the fact that there was discourse among Star Wars fans of, you know, the depiction of an attempted rape versus the escapism of Star Wars, I think it's really predictable that we would get that. I think we get that in a lot of mainstream shows, and I think it's a valid conversation to be having. But I also think that anybody who watched season 1 could have predicted like where like this isn't the escapism that you're looking for. That's not this Star Wars. Like we knew what season 1 was. We knew what period of the Galactic Civil War we were going into. Like we know what's happening in our current real world. This wasn't ever going to be that. So I kind of don't have as much of an issue with that. Sorry, I just realized that my power is not plugged in here and I'm about to lose you guys. Hold on just one second. Okay. In terms of the escape with the TIE event, is that the Avenger? Is that what we've decided this is? I don't know. I was trying to read up on this because I'm like, what model is this? And I don't care about this kind of stuff. So I'm going to call it the Avenger. The stealing the TIE heist.
That was great.
Doesn't ultimately go anywhere for me. And he was like at this facility on Cyanide, and like for what? Just to steal the ship? To what end? Like when the rebels were on Lothal, they stole the TIE Defender and they infiltrated the TIE Defender factory. And like, there was a point to that because like, it was a new model. There was a hyperdrive, there are shields. This was like kind of a big deal. We have to like get intel on these fighters so we know how to fight against them. Like there was a point to that. Cassian like steals this ship and just uses it as like a mode of transportation. It's nothing more really than that. And maybe there'll be more in the further seasons, but I kind of doubt it because we're just in this 1 year and then we're going to jump ahead. And I doubt we're going to revisit it. So he really could have just like flown any old ship and saved us all 12 minutes. That whole thing just kind of like felt like a ploy to like sell. It felt like a ploy to sell Legos to me. So I just wasn't on board with it. Also, it kind of like retconned Rebels in a way because like the TIE Defender was the first TIE with a hyperdrive. And that was, so that kind of stuff just kind of like gets me. Was it entertaining? Sure. The heist was great. It was like an entertaining escape scene. We got to see a lot of cool things on Cyanide, but in the grand scheme of things, there just wasn't a ton of point to that for me. So I didn't really love that whole part of it. I don't know, but
you wanted to see the entire wedding pronouncement of the.
Yes, I thought that was interesting. I thought that kind of stuff was interesting. The costumes were
the bride is waiting. Arrival, doors open.
We'll get to that one next, Kevin. I promise. Yeah, I of course disagree with Laura. I liked the opening just like Kevin did because I think it worked for the old school Star Wars fans. It very much had that energy of the original trilogy. That kind of joking around, but also a little bit serious, like, hey, this is important and I'm going to take. But then as soon as he couldn't use it, I love that you saw, couldn't use it well. I love that you saw your hero having issues with trying to make this thing work and then eventually figure it out and a death-defying escape there, but shooting those mountains as he went under it to get him out of there. I thought it was really cool. And it also showed the composure of Andor, right? I think that was the point of it more than stealing the TIE was to show that he has matured and he has gotten, and he knows how to speak to people. He knows how to handle himself, even in tight situations. He doesn't melt down like he did last season. He actually handles it. So there's a maturity to him. And when he got on the planet, as I said, I don't know, a lot of people thought it was irritating. I totally respect that. But I think it's a commentary from Gilroy about like how can I say how much of a mess the Empire, the rebellion is right now, that even in a small area of land, there are civil wars happening within, even though they're all part of the rebellion. They'll fight each other. And I think it's a commentary on what's going on in our political discourse, how people hold on to one thing and fight over one particular issue and don't really look at the bigger picture and are so caught up that they miss the big thing, which is the fact that they caught Andor, the fact that they had a TIE fighter. They should have been figuring out that TIE fighter, but they couldn't stop fighting amongst themselves. And then they killed the pilot and who was going to help them figure out how to fly that thing. So there was so much about it, and the monsters and all of that. So yeah, I can see how some people might not like it, but I kind of liked it because it showed how Andor has grown, knowing who to talk to, knowing what to say to them, but also, as Kevin mentioned, knowing, hey, listen, you guys got to make sure you get water. He cares, right? There's an element to him. No matter these guys turning on each other, he cares. So I thought that was really cool. On Mina-Rau, this is essentially the crux of the whole show. You're showing what an empire is actually like. Yes, It was cute that you like Darth Vader. It's cute that you love the stormtroopers who can't hit anything, can't hit the side of a barn. But this is what it would really be like. And Laura, you were absolutely right. Like, if you've seen season 1 and you have a problem with showing real Star Wars, you weren't paying attention to season 1. This is what Tony Gilroy wants to do, to show you what it's really like. The fact that they shut down communications for the whole planet so nobody can let them know what is happening, what rules are being violated, what laws are being violated, what women are being violated by the Empire, that's a real harrowing thing. And even the fact that these are undocumented workers, hello, where have I heard that? They're essentially refugees from Ferrix hiding out on Mina-Rau and working as undocumented workers for these farmers. And so they're being sheltered by these farmers. So where have I heard all this before? So it's a real strong commentary that he's making overall. And the sexual assault, please, Vader killed younglings and cut his own son's hand off and wanted to turn his daughter. Please, he's not going to draw the line in sexual assault at all. I don't think that's truthful in this version of Star Wars. I don't think they give a shit what they're doing as long as they control the Empire or control the planets and get production for what they need going on. And certainly what Orson Krennic shows us in what we're going to talk about is clear about how they view these planets and how they want to use these planets for their own benefit. So all of that. But I'm so happy they gave Adria Arjona more to do. And just so we're clear, she's going to be a big part of the show going forward. So this is not just let's use her to do this. Let's use her to be tortured. Let's use her in sexual assault. There's some real interesting storyline that's going to develop over the next few episodes for her, which I thought was great. I hear you about Wilmon, Laura. It's almost, and I felt the same way. Like, why do I care about this kid? So we'll see where that all plays itself out. But it was also a commentary on class, because remember, he's like, well, her mom doesn't want me dating her because I'm just one of these people who's a grain farmer mechanic. So it's a class commentary as well, which I thought was interesting. But the loss of Brasso, I thought, was really poignant, because there's no death scene where he's like, fight on for us, Andor. You'll be great. Just do what you... And then he just dies. No, he's just dead. And that's how it is with war sometimes. People just die. Friends die. People you love die. People you serve with die. And I thought that was a really poignant decision to make in the show. And then they, of course, escape in the tie. So, yeah, for me, I kind of liked what was going on there. But let's move on, Laura, to Mon Mothma here. Let's talk about what you were enjoying here. We're on Chandrilla, and I said the Mothma estate, right, Leida's wedding. It all looks great, but there are cracks below the surface with Luthen and Klaya there. Vel is there as well, because, of course, she's a member of the family. Mon Mothma is not happy to see Luthen there. And then take Holma, her childhood friend, Ben Miles there. He has fallen on hard times, and he's essentially looks like he's basically trying to blackmail her without saying he wants to blackmail her so he can financially get back in a better position. And then eventually Luthen calls Cinta, and we just see Tay just sitting in the back, la, la, la. And we know that she is going to kill him eventually. But her daughter, she gives her daughter an out. Yes, she sold her daughter out last season, but she gives her daughter this out, and her daughter won't take it. Such an interesting moment. And then, of course, we get Perrin's speech, which I think is pretty poignant. And then she realizes she's lost just about everything. So she starts drinking and dancing to her EDM as we end that particular storyline in these first 3 episodes. So what did you catch? What did you enjoy? What really worked for you in the Chandrila wedding situation here, Laura?
It was pretty. And no, that was the big part of it. There was pretty shiny things, and I just enjoyed it. No, but the costumes in these particular scenes were so beautiful and so interesting in what they were sort of not just in that they were so pretty, but also in sort of what they were signifying, even in how they sounded. I mean, if you look back to like Leida's wedding dress with when she first showed it on screen, she's showing her friends, I was just like, damn, like, absolutely gorgeous. But then she puts it on and you can hear it jingling, and you can kind of see how the way that it's actually fitting her, it looks and sounds like chains. And so we've got these like very symbolic things built into these costumes. And it was just it was just so cool, I think, to see. But these scenes between Leida and Mon Mothma right before the wedding, where she's giving her the out, and she tells it. I mean, Leida closes it with, "I wish you were drunk." That was worse than slapping her. I think if she had hit her, it wouldn't have been as bad or as cold. Leida's a cold bitch. Like, yikes. She's young, and she'll learn the hard way, unfortunately, in this story, I imagine. But yikes, that was cold, and kind of hard to watch. But it was really emotional. And man, Perrin's speech. Can we talk about Perrin's speech?
Please.
Like, what in the world? Out of nowhere, the worst character on this show, arguably, like, comes out here and gives this like fantastic speech that I'm just like, oh my God, the worst person you know made a good point. It was exactly that meme running through my head the entire time he was talking, because it was so good. He basically gives the speech of like, joy is like the most important form of resistance, is like kind of the lines he was skirting in that speech. And it was so good and so poignant and so perfect. And it was just wild, of all the characters that could have delivered it, that it was Perrin. So that was really interesting. And I honestly, the dancing at the end of episode 3, I thought was just so fun. I was very tired because I did watch all 3 episodes on Tuesday night. And so it was a long night here in Central Time. But I just thought it was so fun. I was just like, I can't wait to see like every edit of these scenes all cut together with different songs put on top of them, because I just know that's going to become a thing. So I was really enjoying it, and to finally get to see like what we saw those hints of in the trailer of Mon Mothma dancing, like really letting loose, and the fact that Leida had said like, "I wish you were drunk," and then she's just like, "Fine, like go off. I'll just, I'll get tipsy. I'll go beyond that even." And jumping around and dancing, I thought was so fun. I get what you're saying, where it's like all of these rich people, it's like kind of showing the juxtaposition of what's happening on Ferrix, these undocumented migrants essentially, versus this very wealthy or like party that's happening essentially. At the end of the day, it was kind of a nice balance, I think, that we got in these first 3 episodes. Like, we got the up and the down, we got the sort of like dreary and drab and the like bright and shiny, and I appreciated it much more than the first 3 episodes of season 1 for certain.
Rocha, I have a question for you. Without if you're able to answer without spoiling, and if Laura you feel it's too spoiler, he doesn't have to answer. The first 3 episodes took place over like a day, right? Or basically like 3 days. Yeah. Is that how all of these? I heard somewhere that the massacre was going to be across 3 episodes. So is that how it is in these chunks of 3? Is it going to be basically 4 little period, like 3-day periods, or is one series of 3 episodes going to cover a lot more ground than that? I was just curious.
Yeah, there is. I think this one in particular was tightly put together in terms of the amount of time that they're covering in the 3 episodes. Okay. But I think it's much more expansive in other 3 episodes blocks, the other 3 episode blocks. There's a little more time, and not to, I don't want to spoil anything, but the Gorman thing takes time. It's not right off the bat, so that's certainly so this is just one 3 episode block where it takes place in
because you want to see your players get together. You want to see Luthen reunite with you know what I mean, like Cassian and stuff like that. And when you have the first 3 episodes and it's all over the 3 days and he's stuck at a wedding, like I really do appreciate the story.
a wedding he went to, Kevin, that he was not supposed to go to. Like Mon Mothma was not happy to see him. So did he know that Tay was an issue, or was it because the gangster guy was there and they have business and he was delivering that present? Like, what were the reasons here? Or was it because of Andor? Because we hear them trying to contact Andor the whole time Klaya is at the wedding. So yeah.
The gangster guy, what's his character's name? He looks like a character from the Clone Wars, like brought into real world, like with his hair.
Golden or something.
Yeah, Skull.
He looks
straight out of like they just like plucked him from the call, and they were like, "Oh, this is what you'd look like in real world."
It was giving Game of Thrones vibes, a lot of the Chandril and stuff, especially like Dorne. It was serving a lot of that.
I'd like to compliment some of the wedding stuff. I loved the Mon Mothma with her daughter. Like that was like heartbreaking stuff, but I think you covered most of it. I know we're kind of on a time crunch here. And the costuming and production design, like if this doesn't win them an Emmy, I don't know what will. Like it's really fascinating with like the costumes and stuff like that. And like I said, I was really invested in the main players from Rogue One and from season 1. Like I was really because we haven't even talked about Krennic yet, but
we'll get to that.
I just felt one too many cutaway. I think it was just because I was just wanting. There was other parts that were pressing for me now. I'm like, oh, well, I want to. Like I was so worried about Brasso and what was going on that planet, and then you're just cutting away to like more the wedding shenanigans, and that's the last I'll talk about the intercutting, because I do want to say that each of the things they were intercutting to, I enjoyed in different ways. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I said from the beginning, like the Yavin reveal was cool, and I like that Andor was showing like his leadership and how, like you said, like it's really rough out there. They are all fighting for a good cause, but then they start fighing each other. Minus the big rough thing. And then the wedding too, there was like a level of like tension there. And let's get this compliment too, the meta or the oneer, as they call it in the show, the studio. That first scene with Mon Mothma walking all throughout. I mean, I'm sure there was hidden, but that was like it looked like one single cut, and it was just her walking around like, do you know who's here? Oh my God. And then you're following her and you're like, who's she going to talk about and stuff like that. So that was all well done. And I really do appreciate what you guys are bringing up is like that you're seeing like the high class and then the low class and what's going on at the same time. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, the character who plays Davos Skolden is Richard Delane. That's the actor who plays him. He is the brother of Stephen Delane, who is Stannis Baratheon in Game of Thrones. So when you say Game of Thrones, it's very clear that he got his own version of it for sure. Well, let's move on to Orson Krennic. As Kevin was mentioning here, we see him holding a meeting with a bunch of secretive officers here about basically revealing the plans that he's going to implement on Gorman. And there are two people coming up with narratives of how they're going to claim they're harboring terrorists. Where have I heard that before? But he announces the Empire's intention to plunder the mineral resources of Gorman and turn them into this enemy of the Empire. They want to wage a propaganda war, as I mentioned. But also the big meeting starts with this like film strip from when we were kids showing this how to travel to Gorman, how much Gorman is a great place for everyone to enjoy, which was so fascinating to experience. And on the other side, we see Dedra and Cyril and their situations here. Dedra's clearly not been punished too much for Ferric. She's still very much a part of the Empire's plan. Cyril is now very much supporting working at the Bureau of Standards or whatever that's called and training a new recruit to be a part of it, just like he was, and trumpeting all the positives. And then he comes home and we realize they're together. They're living together. And it's such an interesting combination with how they communicate with each other. And then we see his mom, Edie, show up, and we get one of the most amazing dinner sequences you're ever going to see. So, Kevin, your thoughts on the Empire, your thoughts on Orson Krennic and this relationship between Dedra and Cyril, and why do you hate your mother-in-law? Kevin, go ahead. Tell us.
My mother-in-law, it would be the reverse, remember, because it's Dasha, or it would be Dasha talking to my mom.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, look at the color coordinating. When I saw your background, I forgot to tell you. Like I start with the blue, and then it goes into the red with your.
Oh, nice. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. What a fascinating pair they are. Again, some intercut. You're going from like one thing that I'm more interested to, and then you're back to the mother, and you just don't like to see when someone's unpleasant to their son. Whether it's and I have a great relationship with my mom. That's not anything like it, but I do know people that have had those kind of bad relationships with their mom, and it's cool to see Dedra, who to me was not really that likable.
Right. Yes.
Really likable instantly in that scene. Like she cares for him. You know what I mean? Like, and she didn't have to do that. And you know, and then they have that meme. It's going to be a meme now forever of him, Cyril on the bed.
On the bed.
In the Family Guy dead guy pose. Yeah. So, that was great. I always am curious, like what their food tastes like. What are they eating? Like, you know what I mean? I know it's probably like gummy worms that are like colored to make it look like something. But yeah. That scene was great, and that just shows in like one scene, and I don't know where they're gonna go with that. And then Dedra also asking to be taken off the Gorman, like
she sees it as a demotion. Yeah.
Like this is something that I think, you know, that not all characters need a redemption arc, and maybe she doesn't need a redemption arc, but I don't think she's gonna be very happy. Especially if she's trying to get off it, you know, and especially if they're probably going to use her ideas because she's a genius. She's smart. And I loved her interplay with Krennic, like at the meeting before the dinner, where he's like, I already know you have an idea. Like you're not fooling anyone, you know? And then she's like, yeah, you know, basically start, you know, get a reliable insurgents to happen or whatever she said. Krennic just brought back my love for Rogue One and a simpler time when everybody was loving the new Disney Star Wars, when it was just the Force Awakens and Rogue One, and everybody's like, this is great. It's always going to be great. You know, a year later, the last or hate the Last Jedi. I'm just saying, yeah, that happened. But so to see Krennic there, and it was cool that they never calls it Project Stardust or the Death Star, but you say like, hey, I'm gonna need it for the whatever he says, like the condensers or stuff like that. So it's like, because you know, I was like, they're not gonna go Kyber, right? Like that's Rogue One. Like at first I was like, that's not where they're gonna go, and then no, like there's there's different things they need, and it just shows how much suffering and pain this Death Star causes people. You know, whether it's this prisoners with Kino Loy, future Snoke, or whether, you know, building those little parts, that's just a little piece of it. And now they need this other thing that they're probably going to just wipe out an entire people for. So really good setup. I love the 50s. Hey, welcome to the 50s, like tourism, the National Tourism Board. That was a really cool concept too. So I like things that are kind of outside the box like that. And that's not very Star Wars, you know, just like a lot of themes on this show might not be a lot of Star Wars, you know, feel the Star Wars. But that was a cool aspect. Yeah. What did you guys think of that part?
Yeah, Laura, what did you think of the Empire stuff and Dedra and Cyril?
The propaganda thing was so interesting. Just those like two random guys getting up, sort of talking about the strategy of that. I'm just like, God damn it! I bet this is exactly how it goes in some of these rooms. Just so interesting, honestly. The Dedra and Cyril thing just shocked the shit out of me. I mean, I should have seen it coming because, again, rewatch the finale and you do kind of see that, like, there's like one moment, at least in the finale, where he like saves her and then they're like really close and it's like, oh, is this going to be something? Totally forgot about that. So yeah, watching that, I was just like, but it's like gross. I mean, like, think about, like, can you imagine the two of them like kissing? Like, I can't see it. I don't see it. I can't see it. Yeah. Imagine it going beyond that. Like, I can't.
Whoa.
I can't even imagine it happen. It just doesn't seem like it would work or make any sense, or that either of them would. I've given this some. I don't know. I've given this some thought. It's weird.
Do they have a sex scene, Rocha? You saw the rest of it.
I'm not telling you that. You're gonna have to watch the shows.
Tell me offline. It was just an interesting dynamic between the two of them. I loved this stuff with Edie, bringing her back into this and seeing her like kind of up against Dedra in these moments was fascinating. And Krennic was sort of the same way. I kind of always think of Krennic as being this egotistical asshole where he just walks into every room and it's all about ego and competition. Like he's just butting heads with everybody, including the Imperials that are on his side. It's like that with Tarkin, it's like that with Thrawn. It's just that's always what's happening. So to see him and Dedra sort of having a more collaborative dynamic was really surprising to me and sort of refreshing. I'll be very curious to see how that dynamic shifts or develops, if it does at all. I wonder if he's just going to sort of stick her on Gorman and go on along his merry way. We may not see too much more of him. but yeah, fascinating stuff. And yeah, I agree that scene of him laying in the bed, that was so freaking funny and got a legit laugh out loud out of me. And I agreed it's going to definitely become a meme at some point, if it isn't already. I haven't been as in on all of the like Andor memes yet. I haven't seen a whole lot of them, but I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah, I feel like Kyle
the novel Catalyst. You read that was a canon novel, so you probably read it, right?
I read most of it. I don't know if I ever finished it.
So Catalyst showed that side of Krennic. Krennic was actually very collaborative early on and like very friendly. He with Galen Urso.
The Ursos, yeah.
Yeah. So it was interesting to see that side of him, like a little bit of a softer side. Even though he's still a bastard.
Even though he's setting up a situation to take advantage of a planet for the Empire. Yeah.
He seems like a nice guy at dinner, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Bill Maher. But yeah, the scene there with Dedra and Orson, I think you guys were so right to talk about it because it's so interesting that she tries to underplay her intelligence. What was the thing that we noticed in the last season is like she's a woman and essentially in a man's world. And a lot of these incompetent buffoons who are male are in front of her. And I'll tell you this, if Dedra had ever gotten to the position of Grand Moff Tarkin, I think they would have won the war. I don't think they would have lost to the rebellion at all because she's so smart. She's so on top of it. And Orson even saying, or Krennic even saying to her, like, listen, don't bullshit me. I know you had a plan about what to do here before you walked through the door. So just tell me what it is. I personally selected you because I know how people speak about you. And then she lays it all out. And this is what's interesting. She walks away from him. He is the senior officer, and she walks away from him. And that's a power move because she knows she's right. And I love that about Dedra. You know, I don't like the fact that she's working for the Empire, but Denise Goff does such a wonderful job giving some interesting characterizations to Dedra that make you like her in spite of some of the more evil things that she's done. And so you find yourself in that weird position where I know I'm not supposed to like her, but I'm kind of cheering for her a little bit, but only to a certain point. What else is going to come? And then when the situation happens with the mom, that is even more so, as Kevin said. Like you're just like, wow, you know, it's so amazing. And I think it's gutsy to show a man as cuckolded as Cyril is. And the thing is, if it's been a year, you know that Cyril wore her down over that year until they did start to date, until they did move in, right? Like he wore her down. I bet they've never kissed once, Laura, aside from on the cheek or a hand on the cheek. I bet they've never kissed once, but it works for them because she likes that he's not demanding and needy. And he likes that she's in control because his mom was in control of him. So it's another female figure in his life who's in control. I mean, he's the one wearing the apron. He's the one cutting up the vegetables. He's the one OCD about where the fork is on the plate. This is who he is. And showing this kind of male in the Empire, I think is genius. You got enough badass males in Andor and in Star Wars. It's interesting to show this guy in where he's at. And I think he actually does care for her, which is another interesting element to throw in the mix. And it's fascinating that when he storms off after the cakes comment and pouts on the bed, which is what he's doing, she puts Edie in her place. And only when she puts Edie in place and Edie starts saying nice things, does he stand, he shoots out of the bed and it's like fixes his hair and walks back into the room. It is a fascinating moment. And I don't think Dedra would have done that if she didn't have feelings for him for real. So it's such an unusual relationship and how they're expressing their affection with each other. Plus, we get more knowledge of Dedra having grown up in an Imperial Kinderblock without her parents who were criminals. And so she's been indoctrinated to believe in the Empire. And this is why she is as cold and frigid as she is in terms of her emotions, because of how she was raised in the situation that she was in. So it's a fascinating sequence in that way. And Krennic with the officers, I think, is also very, very interesting because of how he handles them and how they're having their separate conversations about the situation with Gorman, and how even Orson is kind of hiding, or Krennic is finally kind of hiding all of the things he knows about what this whole thing is about. So it's just a fascinating piece of seeds being dropped of mystery that we're going to see later, I'm sure. So yeah,
a lot of layers.
A lot of layers, yes. Anything more as we wrap up this spoiler review? Anything else you guys want to make sure we hit on? Anything we missed? I think the music is fantastic in the first 3 episodes. I think it's a different composer this season than last season. So, any other thing you guys want to add in terms of the what you saw in the show?
Well, I noticed the opening theme at all, like last season, it was all they would add instruments every time, like for every episode as like the rebellion. He was coming closer into his own, and I noticed the first one of this season. With the porn, it was very heroic. It's like it's graduated now. Like his theme is like this pronouncement of like not like it's like the throne room theme, like this, like boom, like there it is. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, Brandon.
Yeah, and I think they need to get an interior decorator at Cyril and Dedra's place.
I think they like it just the way it is.
It looks like an app where you have to paint every. You know what I mean? Like one of my kid has an app where like you could paint everything, and it's like it's a coloring book page, but you need to like color in the background.
Yeah, it makes sense for them though, the way that it actually like it lines up exactly. John, you mentioned it earlier, but the commentary on this like slow, deliberate rise of fascism in an imperial power. That commentary wasn't lost on me either. It's really, honestly, it's insane timing given that season 2 wrapped in February 2024, which means it was all written even before that. Tony Gilroy wrote all of this before that. And like, look what's happening in America right now. And even beyond that with undocumented workers and, you know, the lengths that the empire is going to hide what they're doing and how they're doing it when it comes to controlling the populace. It's just fascinating, honestly.
I was really impressed by that. And of course, that carries on through the whole season in interesting ways, for sure. And I also want to give a shout out to the director. I thought Ariel Kleiman did a great job directing these episodes. A lot of beautiful imagery, beautiful shots. I mean, making that speeder look so believably going through the grain fields, I thought it was amazing. So there was so much.
The visual effects too, like it was cool seeing what the TIE fighter pilots would look at from the inside of the cockpit. It makes the video games like, oh, that's how it would be in a video game. Like, or the video game is like, well, that's how it is for them too. Like that was pretty interesting. Like with the little like targeting people. And like you just like the speeder bike. There's one like continuous shot where Brasso like gets up and then runs to the speeder bike, jumps on it, and then we're going with him really fast. You know what I mean? And it didn't feel like it was volume. It felt like he was right outside there. With the big things. So, and I just want to say it was awesome to see when Andor does save the day, you know, and he gets down there with the ship and he has that reconciliation, because for us, we haven't seen them on screen together in a while, like the reconciliation.
Right, the pics. Yeah.
Cool. And then just like, we have to go, like we can't bring Brasso. He's not going to bring the body back. They don't have time for that. It's like, let's get up and get out of there. So, I'm excited to see. Is it a different director for 3 episode blocks, or are they going to? Yeah, that's cool. So I'm excited. Who's the next director?
Oh, I don't know. I can look it up real quick. But there's these next 3 episodes are the longest of the series.
Oh, cool.
They're almost 58 minutes each episode. So buckle in, Laura. That's ahead of time. They're 58 minutes. All good
I'm
stuff.
sure there's details too. I think at the end of the season we should do one more episode where we talk about it, because I know there's gonna be parts where I'm like, because we're instead of covering just one episode, we've covered like the 30-minute episode of Ahsoka and we talked about it for 90 minutes. Now we have to cover 3 50-minute episodes for an hour. Like I know we're gonna have some stuff that slipped by the wayside that sure maybe in the fans comment down below if we missed anything. We'll put a pin on it and we can discuss it at like a recap at the end of the season, because I know I'm forgetting things, which is a credit to, I usually take notes, but I was just too kind of wrapped up in it. I didn't want to take notes I wrote down those 2 quotes that I liked, but I was kind of really invested in it. You
make a good point, because then by the end we'll have seen everything and what the intentions were through the whole season. And so it could be an interesting conversation.
Rocha, blink twice if there is a Cyril Dedra making love scene. Blink twice. Wear sunglasses. Lose weight. Oh, that is true. Look how slim he is, guys. Let's give props to this guy slimming down before our very eyes.
Can you imagine what the sex scene with those 2 would be like?
I tried. I can't. I literally can't. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Robotic, maybe C-3PO getting the mix there.
It's like a sheet. It's like a sheet with a hole in it or something. All right, anyway, we gotta go. All right, thank you all so much for watching this spoiler review of the first 3 episodes of Andor here from the Jedi Way. We appreciate it madly. Kevin, another fun show with you. Please let people know where they can find you and everything got going on, my friend.
You could find me at Kev Smets on all the social medias, and you could find John Rocha's voice on my movie trailer when he sends me the voice files, which will be at some point tomorrow.
Yes, 100%.
Hopefully I'll have them in by the time you watch this episode. Great talking to you guys about these first 3 episodes. Rocha, one more question for you. I'll yield my time.
Okay.
Does it get like? And I'm not saying this because I didn't like the first 3, because I did. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
And I know that you made that tweet that, oh man, you saw some of the best Star Wars storytelling of all time.
100%. This is the best thing since Empire Strikes.
Is this a progression where it's just going to keep steadily getting better and better?
Yes.
Or is there any lull where it kind of would be a lull or whatever? Or is this like, dude, get ready?
I can't say that. I can't say that because I do have a strong belief about a certain 3-episode block. So I'm not going to say that. But there is a lot to come. And there's a lot. Like Laura said, layers upon layers. It is a very layered show. And there's a lot that's going to come. But I think it's very exciting as well, especially when we get into the other areas of what these people do for a living, certain characters. There's a lot to come that I think is going to be I want to hear what you guys think of how they handled all those things as well. So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. And, of course, the great Laura Kelly. Laura, please let people know where they can find you. Always love talking Star Wars with you, Laura.
Yeah, this is fun. You can find me on Blue Sky at shutup-Laura, and you can find my podcast Force Toast, a Star Wars happy hour, at Force Toast Pod on Blue Sky. Alice and I are going to record, I think, tomorrow and catch up on Star Wars Celebration Japan announcements, and we'll get her thoughts on Andor. She and I kind of landed in the same camp last year when it comes to season 1. And last I talked to her, she hadn't finished watching the season 2 yet. So I'm very curious myself to hear what her thoughts are on that, and if we align at all this season again, or if she's kind of in the same camp as last year. It'd be interesting.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, please listen to Laura on ForceToastPod.com with Alice there. A lot of fun there. As for me, at The Rocha Says, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Threads, everywhere. But please remember to subscribe to the channel. You know, we do this. We're doing this now weekly for Andor, but we do this show every 2 weeks talking about everything going on in the world of Star Wars. So if that excites you, interests you, if you like the way we approach Star Wars, maybe you stumbled on us for the first time, please subscribe down below and hit that bell button. And as Kevin said, leave your comments about everything we talked about. What did we miss? What did you get out of it? What are your questions about Star Wars, about Andor, rather, going forward? What do you think is going to happen? Let us know all of it down in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And Laura, what do we have to tell them?
Always remember, your focus determines your reality.